Sami, Hamdi, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome back to the Thinking Muslim.
Thank you for having me, Jala.
Jazakallah khair. Well, we're here at the Kuala Lumpur Prophetic Strategy Summit. Alhamdulillah, I pulled you aside to talk about developments in Syria. There's been a number of tensions over the last few days. Israel has conducted a number of strikes, this time probably more central to Damascus than previously. And it just seems to me that things are moving in a very problematic direction for the new government. Now, all of this centers on Suwaida and centers around the Druze, and in particular, one particular faction of the Druze. I don't know if that's really so relevant, but one particular faction led by Hijri. And I suppose my first question is just bring me up to speed with why things have deteriorated to such a degree that there is now a clear standoff between the Druze community in Suwaida, supported probably by Israel, or certainly supported by Israel, and the central government.
I think that the immediate reason is that there has been a clash between what are referred to as Bedouin tribes and between the Druze community. A truck was ambushed initially, and a few people were killed, and then there was a retaliation, and then another retaliation, another kidnapping, another retaliation. And then eventually the central government in Damascus decided to send in a mediation group. This mediation group was ambushed by forces inside Suwaida, by militias inside Suwaida. And then the central government sent more troops in order to quell the escalation between what they refer to as Bedouin tribes and between the Druze militias. When the central government forces came in to stop the escalation, Hikmat al-Hijri and others around him decided to invite Israel to bomb the central government in Damascus, because Hikmat al-Hijri fears that the government forces that were withdrawn from Suwaida as part of an agreement signed between the people of Suwaida and between between the central government, whereby the central government would sort of say, just stay part of Syria, but we won't keep our troops over there. Hikmat al-Hijri once gave a speech where he said, over my dead body will I allow these takfiris into Suwaida. Ahmad al-Shara' made a concession in which he said, I'm here to keep Syria united. I'm not here to, oppress minorities and the like. I won't keep my forces in Suwaida, but you will recognize the central government. Hikmat al-Hijri called in the Israelis to essentially say to the government in Damascus, we don't want your forces here. That's the immediate reason, the escalation between the Bedouins and between the Druze, and the government trying to mediate, and Hikmat al-Hijri trying to ensure this mediation doesn't lead to the forces staying in Suwaida. The broader reason is that the Israelis are concerned that Ahmad al-Shara' might cement his rule in Syria in a manner that will later threaten the Israelis. And so the Israelis have insisted to the Americans to impose a demilitarized zone in the southern part of Syria, on top of destroying the military installations that belong to Syria, in order to ensure that Ahmad al-Shara' can never be in a position by which he might threaten the Israelis. The Israelis are concerned that the Americans might be leaning towards allowing Ahmad al-Shara' to continue in power on the basis that he'll be a wall against Iran. The Israelis are firm in their view that if Ahmad al-Shara' is going to stay in Damascus, he must have no control over Suwaida, no control over the south, and he must recognize the demilitarized zone. There's a very interesting article came out today on the New Arab, in which, although the Syrian government denies it, in which a Syrian official suggests that they did not expect that Israelis would be unhappy with the forces going in order to calm down that de-escalation, implying there's an agreement that the Syrians have accepted, in which, okay, in order to preserve the territorial integrity, we won't keep our troops in Suwaida, but it remains part of Syria. And the Syrian government, according to this report, the indication is that, if we're speaking on behalf of the Syrian government, that we thought if we put our troops in to de-escalate, the Israelis won't react in this way. I think that the Israelis are bombing Damascus not because they care about the Druze community. I think they are bombing Damascus to try to force a confrontation by which Ahmad al-Shara' will make a mistake that will make the Americans come in and carve Syria into the three pieces that the Israelis want. The reports last night, from at least from the time of the recording, suggested that the ceasefire had been reached, and that might indicate that the Americans are not entirely on board with what the Israelis want to achieve. But what is clear is that the Druze in Suwaida, it appears that they are in a no man's land whereby they are not entirely willing to accept the new central government in Damascus. And Hikmat al-Hijri's case, he would rather bring a rabid genocidal army to bomb his own people, to bomb his own countrymen, than allow Ahmad al-Shara, a fellow Syrian, to have any control over Suwaida.
I mean, how much of the actions of Hijri is actually in collusion with the Israeli state in order to achieve his plan of creating a demilitarized zone and maybe fragmenting Syria?
So when Ahmad al-Shara entered Damascus, the new government that was established essentially reached out to the minorities to calm tensions and to say that we're not here to cause any concern. What can we do to prove that we're not here to oppress you and the like? And one of the agreements that was made with the leaders in Suwaida was that the government forces would not be present in Suwaida itself.
Yeah.
They would be able to run their own security, but they would be part of the Syrian state. Ahmad al-Shara and the government in Damascus managed to secure the agreement of the majority of the leaders of the Druze community. But Hikmat al-Hijri, one of the prominent leaders of the Druze community over there, adamantly rejected the deal that was made with Damascus. And even though he nominally agreed to the proposal that the government forces wouldn't be there, it appears that Hikmat al-Hijri is the proxy by which the Israelis are using in order to justify bombing Syria and potentially later on carving out some sort of autonomous independent area in southern Syria that the Israelis can then use as a launch pad to further antagonize the central government in Damascus. It's always important to remember that when Ahmad al-Shara entered Damascus, he called a meeting of the 28 different factions that had fought against Bashar al-Assad. One of those factions didn't turn up, and that faction belongs to that southern area where Suwaida is and those areas as well. That faction is considered to be more on the pro-UAE side of things as well. So the concern is that Israel wants to use Hikmat al-Hijri to keep that southern part out of Ahmad al-Shara's hands. And the concern is that it may not just be the Israelis, it may also be the UAE, who Ahmad al-Shara has been liaising with on the basis that the UAE might be able to rein in the Israelis who are trying to force that agenda in the south. But it's not a given that the UAE is necessarily against the Israeli agenda there.